All right, so interesting article here coming from Light Reading. You can find the link in the description below. I encourage you to read it because there's some good stuff here. We're going to talk a little bit about this article, and then, what's real interesting here is these answers that we're getting from this article based on the situation is exactly what I expected. When I think about the situation that Dish Network, Dish Wireless, Boost Mobile, Boost Infinite, however you want to refer to them, because they've had so many names now. I think when we think about how they got into the situations that they're currently in, coming into 5G, not keeping their promises, ultimately not becoming the fourth biggest carrier, a lot of issues, right? A lot of problems, a lot of failed attempts, should I say. And this kind of sums it up. But for me, these are the answers I exactly expected to get. So I'm not shocked here. And I think many of you will find that you're not either. I believe some of you may be thrown off by this. Maybe you were expecting more. I think that this is exactly what makes sense. And if we really dig deep and look back at the past since Dish took over or came into 5G and bought Boost Mobile, I think that it makes sense. It really does. So there's this court case that was going on. Looks like Dish was able to get out of it. So they wormed their way out of this. So congratulations to Dish. And they were basically accused of, I guess, deceiving customers and deceiving the wireless industry, supposedly making promises that they couldn't keep, promising to make a successful 5G wireless industry, company in the wireless industry, and failing to complete a lot of the tasks, meet a lot of the requirements. So this is basically what they were accused of. The judge has sided with Dish for a couple of reasons. Many of it could just be pity. When you really boil it all down, I don't think Dish had any intentions to hurt anyone, not themselves, not customers, not the industry. I think the situation goes like this. I think Charlie Ergen saw an opportunity to come into the wireless industry because he saw how successful the other carriers are doing, T-Mobile, Verizon, and at&t. I think it was something he always had some kind of interest in. He figured, why not take a shot at it, especially since Dish Network has not been doing well for a long time. At that time, he was aware that cable TV was dying. It's dying even more now. And the industry in itself of cable and live TV is dying. So it's not a direct insult towards Dish. It's nothing for them to be ashamed about. It's just no one's buying or paying for live TV anymore. They're just not interested in cable. It's a dying breed. It's a dying industry, if you will. And Charlie knew that years ago, which is why he wanted to dip his toes into the wireless industry. The problem here is Charlie was ready to go in, with both feet. The problem ultimately is that although Charlie had the courage to jump into the water with both feet, he wasn't really thinking it through, because we both know that when you dive into the ocean, if you don't swim, meaning if you don't paddle, two things are going to happen. You're either going to float out somewhere, not necessarily in the direction that you're heading. So if you want to get across that ocean, waves are going to get in your way, and you're either going to go left or right. And if you can't, or you can, float, try to float your way straight, keep your body steady. But if not, you could also sink, right? When it gets too deep, if you're not a good floater too. So he wasn't thinking about that. He just thought, hey, let's just get in and see where it goes. That's how it comes across. And this article pretty much sums that up and gives us that vibe, or those answers, that this was the attitude. All right. This was the attitude from Dish coming into the industry. There was a lot of problems. They were overly optimistic on 5G. They didn't mean to make these misrepresentations, not recklessly, not knowingly, but yet they were there. There was a lot of confidence coming from them, but not really any plans. When they bought Boost, when they inherited all that spectrum so that they could replace Sprint, they didn't do a good job from the start. Here's where I think they failed. There's a couple of reasons and a couple of places. So a couple of reasons why I think they failed and a couple of places where I think those reasons were. So ultimately, with the Boost Mobile brand, they didn't do very good with that. Then they decided that they wanted to launch Boost Mobile, Boost Infinite. The Boost Infinite was a complete letdown for a number of reasons. One of those reasons is they tried to make it something that it could not be. And it couldn't be that because they didn't think about what customers want. They weren't willing to really listen. They were just eager to get something out there. And this is where broken promises really started, at least for me, when I started to notice that they were missing the mark, but not intentional. They thought they were creating something genius here. They thought they were creating something really nice. So I got to try to get through this because it's a lot to fit in, and I don't want to drag this too long. So they brought this Boost Infinite brand here, right? And it was supposed to be postpaid. They thought it was something special. You were going to have your credit checked, you were going to have the postpaid experience, but we didn't get any of that, right? There was nothing there. The plans were bland and watered down. It was nothing special, no streaming services. There was just nothing, right? To be clear, you didn't even get your name ID. None of the things that postpaid service offers. No perks, have you none, right? There was just nothing there. It was literally the same thing as Boost Mobile, the $25 prepaid plan. The promise here was that you were going to be able to take advantage of T-Mobile, AT&T, and Dish Native. And they were basically talking about this. They didn't advertise very well, which is another issue. But then again, whenever they did advertise it, they were really advertising nothing because there wasn't anything there to advertise, meaning Dish Native was not ready. So they were promising you something that they couldn't deliver, which is the biggest mistake. You're new to this industry. You're trying to get yourself out there. You want people to know that Dish Network, the cable company, now has its footprint or has its feet dipped into the wireless industry. And you're just letting people down from the get-go, from day one, by telling them that they're going to get access to a network that is not even available yet for like 95% of the people, or at least 90, right? Maybe there was 10% that were getting it. So that's the first thing, right? For me, Boost Infinite, letdown. Then we had Project Genesis, the website talking about, what cities and states are going to get access to their native 5G network. And there were some states that were starting to get the rollout. Not enough, of course, but the ones that did get the rollout, they had to go and make it difficult for you to take advantage of it by forcing you to have a single device. What was it, the Motorola Edge? Nobody really had that phone. And it's not an insult to the phone because I like Motorola and that specific phone is great. The problem here is you would have had to go out and get that specific phone to use that service. So right off the bat, you've eliminated customers twice in my mind. With your Boost Infinite plan, lying to them, broken promises, not even offering any reason to really sign up for it. Even if you wanted just the AT&T and T-Mobile, there was no benefits to those plans that you couldn't get on Boost Mobile. All right, so there's that. And then, the Project Genesis. Now you're alienating more customers. So what if you had a brand new iPhone? What if you had a brand new Samsung Galaxy or a Pixel? You've spent great money on that, but you can't use those phones with Dish Native because they're not compatible. Not at that time. So you see what I'm saying? Just repetitive situations that they've put themselves in, damaging their own selves, like damaging their own possibilities of growing, right? They've basically put a fork in themselves by doing that. You don't alienate your customer base. You're trying to grow. The approach was absolutely wrong. And I think a lot of it has to do, I mean, I can't say for sure. I think, but maybe there was just too much egotistical behavior from Charlie. He was overconfident in his abilities, and he thought that he could use his name, Dish Network, and that was going to drive enough customers there. I mean, if you really think about it, that is the attitude, and that is certainly the vibe that I think many of us feel or getting with Dish Network, Dish Wireless, however we want to refer to them. I'm going to read this statement here that was made from Charlie all the way back in 2019. He says, "We are confident that we can compete in 5G. He also said Dish would be a formidable new entrant in the wireless industry and that it would create a lot of competition in the marketplace. I think those statements right there summarize exactly what I'm pointing out. The confidence, formidable new entrants, meaning this is an unstoppable force. You're getting something high end here, okay? This is something rare to the industry. So they're already knocking down the competitors, T-Mobile, AT&T, and Verizon. And then the fact that they're saying they're going to create, their network is going to create a lot of competition in the marketplace. So as you can see, it's the confidence has become arrogance. You know what I mean? And that arrogance has led to what could have been potentially a great service. But you mix that in with bad money habits, poor structure, you name it, and these are the end results. They should have slowed their pace, kept Boost Mobile, forgot about Boost Infinite, offered a little bit more perks. As we can see, they redid the Infinite plans. They should have done that from day one. All right, they're a little bit better now. They're still not the best, but they're better. But there's already a lot of customers that are done with them, that won't try them anymore. And now they've also put themselves between a rock and a hard place where they don't have the financials to keep this going. All because they just didn't think it through. They're just so set on being number one. They, stepped up to the plate and they thought they could just take that one swing and hit a home run. It doesn't work like that. It's disrespectful to the other carriers that work really hard. That's how I feel. Think about it like this. I want to use this as an example, and then we're going to end this. Because I already went longer than I wanted, but unfortunately, this is the nature of these conversations, and I'm not even saying half of what I want to. Think about it like this. I'm currently doing a free trial from Verizon, and this is not an advertisement. This is merely just to prove my point here about how Dish doesn't understand how the industry works and how hard it is to attract customers in a competitive market, especially when you're the new guy. I'm doing a current trial, 90-day trial, free, because I'm a Fios customer. It's called Discover Verizon, right? You can get this same trial if you've never had Verizon wireless service. I think it's for 30 days if you don't have Fios. If you have Fios, you get 90 days. My point being is, Verizon is a super well-known wireless service. They're in the top 3. Some will say they're number 1, some will say they're number 2, some will say they're number 3. It's not my job to judge which carrier is the best. To me, it's market specific. That's how I look at it. We can track numbers and, maybe on record, Verizon does better here. And point being is, as successful as they are, as many clients as they have, they are still bending over backwards to get new customers interested, as much as they've accomplished. So now you come in, you're a big shot, Dish Network, you now buy Boost Mobile, and you're just gonna come in and not offer anything on your Boost plans. You're gonna launch Boost Infinite. It's gonna be the exact same thing. as Boost Mobile, but you're going to have people go through a credit check. You're going to aggravate them. They got to wait for a new SIM, no phones, nothing to offer. And then on Project Genesis, if they want to try your brand new network, which hasn't really even been demonstrated or tested if it's reliable enough, they got to buy a new phone so that they can use your network. And then they got to pay for that phone, and then they got to pay for that plan. No free trials, nothing. How does that sound? Many customers are scratching their head to this day on how poorly that approach was. Again, I want to end it. It's much longer than I wanted, but hopefully you got the point here. This is not a rank on Dish. I like Dish, and I do think Dish Native is a good network. It's just not available enough. But they basically missed their shot, and it's a shame because they probably would have done so much better. I wanted them to succeed. If you watch my videos, you'll know that I've talked very highly about them. I wanted them to do better, and I still like the Boost plans. I mean, for $25, they're not bad. 30 gigs of premium for $25 is not terrible. You know, unfortunately, Dish is just still not available. Dish Native, I'm talking about, not really available in many markets. But if you want T-Mobile or AT&T, it's a fair budget way of getting access to it. So, you know, they've gotten better with the plans and everything. But my point being is, you know, this is exactly what did them in my opinion. And they wasted a lot of money and a lot of time. And now, really, the only way they can succeed is if someone comes in and works with them. But they have too many problems. Even with, you know, DirecTV, that merger fell through because they didn't want to own up to their losses. They didn't want to meet them halfway. They wanted DirecTV to wipe their their slate clean so that they can move on. They wanted DirecTV to take all of that burden. And they were like, no. See, Dish doesn't play fair. That's that egotistical thing, I think. You know, coming from Charlie, I think. I mean, how else do you describe it? Like, it's like you had an opportunity. You were in front of the basket. You were so close. It's almost impossible to miss that shot. And yet you still did. As always, thank you so much for stopping by and watching. And I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.